This is the extraordinary life of Pastor Enoch Adejare Adeboye, the mathematician who became a spiritual father to nations. Sit back as we unfold the story of a man whose life continues to shape generations across the world. He was born in a small village where the earth smelled of rain and cassava, Ifewara, near Ile Ife, in what was then the southern region of British Nigeria. On a warm March morning, March 2nd, 1942, Moses and his wife welcomed their last child, a boy named Enoch Adejare Adeboye. The family was very poor. Adeboye often remembers, with a gentle laugh, that he did not own a pair of shoes until he was 18, that early humility would become a motif in a life that later moved millions. His mind, however, was never poor. He went from Ilesha Grammar School to university at a turbulent time in Nigeria's history. He began tertiary studies at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Civil war interrupted that path, and he completed his degree at the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, graduating with a bachelor's in mathematics in 1967. Determined and precise, he pursued postgraduate work in hydrodynamics and applied mathematics, earning a master's, and in 1975, a PhD in applied mathematics from the University of Lagos. He became, for a time, a university lecturer, quietly gifted at teaching and mentoring young minds. But God's appointment arrives in unexpected ways. In the early 1970s, Pastor Adeboye walked into a small, growing congregation led by Josiah Akindayomi, and in 1973, he received Christ at the Redeemed Christian Church of God. He served first as interpreter for the founder, translating sermons, learning the rhythms of Pentecostal ministry, and was ordained a pastor in 1975. When Pa Akindayomi died, church leadership looked for a successor. In 1981, at about 39 years old, Adeboye was appointed General Overseer of the RCCG, a quiet man suddenly carrying a large, audacious vision. That appointment required him to step away from his academic career and to devote himself entirely to the work of the church. Picture the church then, a handful of parishes, humble buildings, a core of devoted members. Under his steady stewardship, the Redeemed Christian Church of God began to change scale and character. A strategy of planting small congregations, training ministers, prioritizing holiness and pastoral care, and an unusually disciplined organizational structure turned what had been dozens of parishes into tens of thousands over the decades. The church grew across Nigeria, then across continents, thousands of parishes worldwide, and a presence in scores of nations. The little interpreter who once helped the founder has become the trusted leader of a global family. Adeboye's story is not just about numbers, it's also about building places that can host a movement. In the 1980s, the church acquired and developed a vast camp on the Lagos-Ibadan corridor, what the world would know as Redemption Camp, later styled Redemption City. Over many years, that land and those facilities became home to weekly rallies, conferences, training programs, schools, and eventually a university, Redeemers University, which opened in 2005 in Idi, Osun State. The university, conceived as an educational arm of the church's vision, was one of the concrete ways Adeboye's ministry invested in Nigeria's future. Around the man who leads the church is a family that has shared his journey. In 1967, he married Foluke Adenike Adeboye, known affectionately in many circles as Mumi Gio, and together they raised 4 children: Leke, Adeolu, often called Ade, Bolu, and Dare. Over the years, his children have married and taken on various ministries and professions, and the Adeboye home became a multi-generational pastoral household. The family story is woven into the story of the church itself, shared celebrations, private griefs, and the daily life of faith. Because he combined the scholar's mind with the pastor's heart, the world took notice. In 2008 to 2009, Adeboye was named on several high-profile lists and received many honors: keys to cities in the United States, multiple honorary doctorate degrees from universities at home and abroad, invitations to lead global prayer gatherings, and recognition from his own nation. He was included by Newsweek among the world's 50 most powerful people in 2009, a curious kind of spotlight for a pastor who preferred humility, but whose influence had become undeniable. He has also been the recipient of national honors in Nigeria. and multiple academic institutions have awarded him honorary degrees in recognition of his public and spiritual work. There have been other hallmarks of his leadership: the founding and support of educational institutions, the formation of the Redeemed Christian Bible College and seminaries, the international expansion of RCCG into North America, Europe, Asia, and beyond, and the steady emphasis on family training, youth development, and charitable outreach. He has endowed university chairs and gifts to Nigerian universities, and the church has launched programs in health, education, and social welfare. These are the practical fingerprints of a ministry that aims to shape society as well as souls. Like all great public lives, Adeboye's story includes public controversies and rumors, some small, some loud, but the record shows a man who stressed personal holiness, fiscal responsibility, and accountability in ministry. Where gossip circulated, his public posture has for decades been one of restraint. He focuses on preaching, teaching, and organizational growth rather than spectacle. That restraint earned him both fierce loyalty and critics who wished for different styles of leadership, for balanced perspective on awards, honors, and public claim. As he moved into his 8th and 9th decades, the tone of Adeboye's leadership also shifted. He began to pass more administrative responsibilities to younger leaders while remaining the spiritual figurehead, the mentor, the prayerful teacher, the one people still call Daddy G.O. He marked milestones: 50 years in ministry, many national celebrations, always returning their attention to a single refrain, that he was a steward of a calling, not the owner of an office. And so his life reads partly like the biography of a man and partly like a map of a movement. He started with a village, a pair of worn shoes, and a brilliant love of mathematics. He became a lecturer, a husband, a pastor, and then a steward of one of the world's most extensive Pentecostal networks. He planted schools and a university. He helped to build a city for a church. He visited World Forum, received civic honors, and carried with him to the end of the workday the same quiet seriousness that had marked his early years in a classroom. If you listen to Adeboye's sermon, you will hear two persistent notes: discipline and hope. He preaches that success is birthed in small, disciplined acts repeated daily. He preaches that hope sits at the center of faith. Those notes, mathematical in their cadence, pastoral in their warmth, explain how a boy who learned to walk without shoes came to shepherd millions, to plant a university, and to build a global fellowship that touches neighborhoods from Lagos to London, from Houston to Hyderabad. This is the life of Enoch Adejare Adeboye, a story of humble beginnings, precise thinking, devout service, and a large patient influence that continues to shape congregations and communities around the world. Subscribe now to see who is next on this story. Tell us what you know about this man of God in the comments section. Let us go to the next page.